In sports, if you want to be the best, there are no off days.
College football season is here. We are ready to go.
It's Christmas morning.
How many days had it been?
Too many.
I know you. I thought you had counting them down.
Well, I know that all the little paper, ribbons that I made, and I tear one each day on the calendar. That I've torn the last Christmas Eve.
We are here.
We wake up in the morning and we see what old Saint Nick left us, and I don't mean Nick Saban.
He left. Yeah. What did he leave you? That's what I want to know.
I guess we'll find out.
That's a present that will take the next 3 months to unwrap. All right, here we go. Welcome on into the No Off Days podcast. He is Chris Cato. I'm Scott Smith. We got BK in the booth. We got a big week because on this week's show, we've been putting in a lot of your is that bugs?
I killed a bug. I'm fired up for football. I just killed a bug.
Pest control. We need to bring one
Don't
in.
worry about it.
I can't raid under the desk here.
It wasn't a spider, though.
What was it?
I was foreshadowing for you there.
Well, let's bring in BK then before I start laying out what we have on the show. He did not kill a spider. It appears to be a gnat.
Yes, a harmless fruit fly. It was wearing an Auburn jersey, Brian. I'm in football mode.
This will be a very bug-centered show. As we wait for BK.
Brian has a...
As we always bug Brian, but yes, we're going to be focused on insects in today's program, BK. Can you hear us?
Yes. How about that? Jeanette Lee, also known as the Black Widow.
The Black Widow.
How about that?
I know.
You wouldn't do that to a Black Widow, would you?
No. I'd let you handle that one.
Have you seen that 30 for 30 documentary on her? It's just fascinating, and I am so excited about this interview to see what she has to say. Tampa resident.
Yeah,
she's repping Tampa.
Yeah.
So I think she has a little bit of a life update for us. As many of us last checked in with Jeanette Lee, it was she had been battling ovarian cancer and it was stage 4. So, but we are gonna catch up with her, and I think we're going to get some good news out of this interview. So,
I think so.
I'm looking forward to that. What else do we have, BK?
Oh, at the end of the show, guys, it's football season, so you got to come up with your picks. I mean, you guys have been nailing picks all year, so let's do some
this guy's wearing his pick on his shirt. Do you see this, Brian?
I see it. That's all right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to don't tell our audio audience. This is why you need to go to fox13.com/nodpod and watch the show. Watch it.
See what shirt Scott is wearing. It's a Liberty Flame shirt. He believes Liberty's going to win the college football playoff.
If Chris's T-shirt ensemble each week isn't enough, then mine certainly won't. Okay, so yes, we're talking college football. So we have our 12-team playoff that we're going to each kind of predict what that's going to look like.
Sure.
It's hard. It's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things we don't know.
It was hard to pick a 4-team one. This is even more challenging.
Yeah, without question. Well, I think we'll get more in. That's what we'll probably get more correct than a 4-team, right?
But it's nice that the games won't really matter until about like week 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Right.
No, that's not the case.
No, he's just
no,
doing,
Brian.
He's
we
doing his thing.
We can't go back down that road. We've already done that.
Yeah, look at him. It's the first week of college football.
It is,
you can't already be.
It's awesome. I'm warming up to it. I'm actually looking forward to it. So
I don't like the week 0 name.
Yeah, that's a little.
I don't like that name either.
Let's just start with
football.
1. Okay.
It's real football.
Let's call it week 1, where a lot of teams didn't want to play.
Yeah, week 1A, and then next week will be 1B.
Right.
All right.
Okay. All right, BK, we will catch up with you momentarily. If you're listening and you want to watch and see me in my shirt, go to fox13news.com/nodpod. If you're watching and you want to listen or subscribe, take out your phone, zap the QR code on the screen, and there you can find all of our shows. Please give us a 5-star if you are a NodPod listener. Again, fox13news.com/nodpod. All right, we do want to start things off this week diving into the NFL because we're on our trek through each division.
That's right.
We're giving you all our insights and takes and sizzling hot takes on how we think each of these divisions is going to shake out. And we're nearing the stretch here. We've moved regionally up into the Great Lakes region.
Getting cooler up there. It's starting to feel like fall up there.
Yeah. I love being right there right now.
Yeah, it's 76 in Chicago today. Did you see that?
Beautiful.
Oh man.
Yeah, they have about 8 days of beautiful weather in Chicago.
This is one of them.
I'd love to be there. All right, so we're going to be breaking down the NFC North, the Norris division, and we will go. What do you want to do? Bottom to top?
I think that's been working well. Bottoms up.
Bottoms up. All right. As always, sir, the floor is yours to make your case.
Filling it up.
Who is going to stink up the joint in the North?
Not surprising anyone with this one, although I will say overall this division much improved. One of the toughest, I think, in the NFC, maybe all of the league now. But Minnesota Vikings, I'm sorry. You got to be bottom feeders in the North this year.
Gobble.
It's hard. Sam Darnold's your quarterback. I think the defense is going to be good. I believe in Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a good coach. I like some of the draft picks they made on defense, getting Dallas Turner. They kind of had to let Danielle Hunter, their best pass rusher, had to let him walk because of a contract situation. But they filled in pretty well there with some guys. But it's just the offense. It's who's going to be getting the ball to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, right? And Sam Darnold's not going to be able to get it done. I think this is probably a 5 to 6 win season for the Vikings. I'll give them benefit of the doubt because of the defense, and I'll go 6-11.
Yeah, I think they got kind of a challenging slate of games too. They do have some offensive weapons, which if you have a serviceable quarterback, then they also added Aaron Jones to their backfield too. So, I like some of those pieces. I think Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the National Football League. But Sam Darnold's track record is no bueno, and so I think you rise and fall on the arm of your quarterback. And so I got the Vikings coming in. Last year they finished 7-10. I got them taking a step back at 6-11. There's going to be some unrest up there. It's not going to be so nice up in Minnesota. Nice.
I think so.
All right, coming in number 3. Want me to take this one? I'll take
number 3.
Your
turn.
I think we're probably going to be in lockstep this whole way. I got the Chicago Bears coming in at number 3. They've added a lot. Obviously, it comes down to Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall draft pick. He's going to be the guy right out of the chute. They built a lot of pieces around him. They bring in DeAndre Swift and Keenan Allen and Gerald Everett, tight end. On defense, they've added some names too. Ryan Bates is on there, Kevin Byard. So they're addressing all these holes and trying to patch it like a sinking boat. And I think that this team is going to see a real turn, but kind of like the Vikings, I think there's just too many out of the division's already challenging, but there's some out of division games that I think are just for a team that's trying to learn and mesh, and under a rookie quarterback, there's going to be a learning curve.
Like Rams week 2?
I think the Rams are going to be a good team.
I think Rams are going to be good.
And they got the Niners on the schedule. So, this is going to be a challenging year for the Bears a little bit, but I think they're going to see enough progress and just creep over that 500 mark. I have them last year; they were 7-10. This year, I have them coming in at 9-8.
All right, I think you and I are going to be.
And one thing I'm sure to fix this week. They're going to play only 17 games. Okay, last week I wanted a lot of teams to play 18 games, but I messed up.
No, you were giving them a playoff win.
Yeah,
you were just go ahead and pencil in a playoff win.
No, what I do is
them.
I count wins.
Yeah.
So and then I try to do math, and that's where I fail.
Well, some wins should count as 2 if you beat a good team. Maybe I don't know. I'm with you on the Bears. I've got them in 3rd in this division, but a much improved Bears team. I've been drinking the Hard Knocks Kool-Aid, Scott. Have you watched any of the Hard Knocks?
No, I don't get the HBO.
Oh my gosh, I got to give you my login. I don't know if that's legal, but this Caleb Williams guy. He is the real deal. Yeah. I know that we're supposed to believe he's the real deal, but the throws he makes off of platform, creative, running around, don't want to ever compare anyone to Mahomes, but I don't know who else to say, just to give you an idea, as if you've never watched him play before. I know.
By the way, did you watch him this last weekend in the second preseason game? The behind-the-back throw?
Yeah.
He's ridiculous.
Yeah, but no, Caleb Williams is going to be a star. Now, year 1, how good is offensive line? It's good that he's good. He's good at running around, which is a good thing. But I like the weapons, too. DJ Moore, they locked down to this big contract. Keenan Allen, and I love Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze, I believe, maybe as good as Marvin Harrison Jr. It's such a hard worker. I think he's going to get a lot of catches in this offense. You got big Cole Kmet, the tight end. It's going to be a good team, man. They're going to beat some people that we wouldn't think they would beat. Watch out, maybe Niners or Rams. I've got them at 10 wins. Vegas has 8.5. I think they're going to win 10 games, and who knows? I don't know. Does that put you in the playoff hunt? Maybe it does.
I think it certainly does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's great. Okay. We got a 3 playoff
Am I a little too high on the Bears?
Again, banger.
It's the Hard Knocks Kool-Aid I've been drinking. But
all right. Do you want to roll into your second pick?
Let me go to the Packers here in second place. Man, it's what a good division again. I really went back and forth between Lions and Packers, and I just still think the Lions are a little ahead of where the Packers are. But I think we're all just impressed by, and maybe too impressed by how they finished last season, going on that 6-2 run. Their final 8 games when Jordan Love really comes into his own and has 18 touchdowns and 1 interception in the final 8 games. Almost a perfect passer rating in that playoff game where they upset the Cowboys. Just looked like a different player, and you could see everything clicking. I like the 4 young receivers. You got Reed, Dobbs, Wicks, and Watson. They add Josh Jacobs to the backfield. And they had a lot of talent on defense last year. It was just they weren't getting these young stars they have on the same page. And so they hire Jeff Hafley, who comes over he was Boston College's head coach. This is the state of college football now. He left Boston College for a coordinator job here. Good defensive mind. He's a good defensive coordinator through the college ranks and at Boston College. I think he'll do well with this defense here, and I love the signing of Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, they add McKinney to that defense. So, yeah, I think their defense was the best in the North last year, which is not really saying a whole lot.
Yeah.
I think they gave up about 20 points a game or so. But I think what you saw last year with Jordan Love was, and what a lot of people are kind of pegging their hopes on, is the progression of a young quarterback, right? A guy that finally gets his opportunity, that it's not a flash in the pan, but maybe more of the trajectory of where things are going with him. That playoff win, I don't think it was a fluke. I think that this team is talented, and they're just so young. And so if you start believing now, building into the culture, there's something about having talent and a belief in Green Bay. There's kind of this little pot, that kind of good football just kind of brews out of that area. So just kind of like those cheese curds, baby. Delicious. So I think the Packers are going to be very good this year. I do think that they're probably going to be a playoff team. But I don't think I'm quite as high on them as you. They were 9-8 last year. I got them as a 10-7 team getting in as a wild card.
Okay. I had 11-6, so yeah, maybe a little bullish on the Pack there.
All right. I think far and away the team that runs away with this division, and I do think they run away with it, is the Detroit Lions. They re-signed all their big guys right now. I know money can be an issue. You get the big contract, you let off the gas. Well, they go out. Penei Sewell gets his. We got Jared Goff gets his. Everybody's getting paid. But I really think what is in Detroit right now is a confidence that has probably never been. I don't think there's ever been a confidence around probably any team other than those great Red Wings teams that would rip off Stanley Cups, or maybe like the mid '80s Detroit Tigers. Like this Lions team is in a different class of group, and I think that they're super special. They brought in Terry Arnold, which was I was high on that draft pick out of Bama. A couple of your Bama boys are a little banged up right now, him and Jahmyr Gibbs, but Dan Campbell says both of them they'll be fine. So I think they didn't do a lot to bolster their roster in the offseason, but they kept guys, and I think that's all they really needed to do. I have them. They were a 12-5 team last year. I have them 13-4. So I have them
improving.
I have them winning the division by a hefty margin there, by 3 games over the Packers.
That's Vegas has them 10.5. So that's there you go. You should take that to the bank. Yeah, I agree with you. This is the golden time right now to be a Detroit Lions fan, and I think it's Super Bowl or bust. As fans expect, at least play for it. At least get in the Super Bowl this year and play for it, and all of that is possible. The schedule, I think, is slightly harder than what they had last year, which is what you get when you win your division, probably. And I factor the Bears being better into that. Now, if the Bears fall flat, then maybe it's not a harder schedule, but I think they're going to be tough. But yeah, they got everything cooking for them here, and I think that there's this team. I'd like to see the defense be a little better going into the playoffs. Like, I think that's where
Carlton Davis.
Okay, all right,
former
from the Bucs. All right. But I'm with you. I've got 12 wins for the Lions, which is, they're going to win the division again, I believe, and make a deep run.
All right. There was no disagreement with the exception of a couple of wins and losses.
Oh, we will save our disagreements for our final segment.
Okay. Well, coming up next, we're going to find an equal footing here, because we are both excited to bring you our guest on the other side. She is the Black Widow.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, she dominated those billiard halls and those pool tables. We used to watch her on ESPN2 all the time. Jeanette Lee is our guest next on the No Off Days podcast. Well, Chris, what a neat privilege it is to welcome in our guest, a true icon, someone that has transcended. We see these people that transcend their sport, and our guest certainly has professional pool star turned author. We have Jeanette Lee, better known as the Black Widow, on the No Off Days podcast. Jeanette, thank you so much for joining. I wish we could have done this interview in person so that you could hustle my co-host Chris out of all of his money. Welcome in.
We've got to get a table. We've got to get a table in the cafeteria in the studio somewhere. I'll be happy to.
Oh, we'll have you right over, and you can fleece me for sure. I've walked into a couple of bad wagers before. It's incredible to see you in person. You look like you're doing great. Tell us where you are right now in your journey.
Actually, so some people may not know, and I talk about this in my memoir, The Black Widow, a memoir, and I got stage 4 ovarian cancer about 3 years ago. And since then, it's recovering from chemo. I'm cancer-free.
Yes.
Wow.
And trying to develop like my strength back and my, the muscles that atrophied, just building that back up I never had to work this hard. I always stayed fit, stayed in the gym, but I've never just not worked out for a few years. And so it's been a tough road back, but I'm really glad to have it.
Well, I want to camp out right there for a minute, because just to give our audience kind of a frame of reference as to what you were up against, this was terminal, right? Doctors said they gave you 15% survivability at first diagnosis?
Yeah, and they didn't even want to give me that. They just, I think just with the location of where some of the lymph nodes were and things like that, and just how bad it was, they didn't give me a very good chance. But they were hopeful. We were hopeful. There's plenty of people that have made it through ovarian cancer. Unfortunately, a lot of them come back, but we're gonna pray that cancer stays away.
No doubt.
And I can tell my story.
That is so good to hear, because I recently watched the 30 for 30 on you, Jeanette Lee versus, and it did end on kind of a sad note where you had said you'd gone through 6 cycles of chemo and you just kind of weren't sure what was next, and that was just 2 years ago. But here you are, and it's wonderful to see. Are you still making your way around the table and hustling people at 9-ball? Where are you in your competition part of your career? Is that something you're really not too concerned about right now as you come back from this?
I'm not. I'm gonna love pool for the rest of my life. I'm always gonna want to play pool, but to compete at that top level, the amount of hours and time that it's going to take for me to get to that level. And it's hard when you've been number one to want to compete when you know that your game is well below what it was. And, to give respect to the other women, I would have to be in my top form to compete right now. But at the same time, with the way ovarian cancer tends to work and being told by so many places and so many people, the chances of cancer coming back, I don't know that I want to spend such a big chunk of my time working on a pool game, which is my love, my hobby, but my children come first. They always have. My faith in my children.
Without question.
And that's why this book, The Black Widow, a memoir, was so important for me to write, just because I was looking at the end of my life. The doctors did not have, a great, what do you call it?
Prognosis.
Not forecast. I can't think. Prognosis. Thank you. And I just knew that if I got more time, I would want it being the best mom that I could be. That was on the forefront of my mind. And so now that I'm cancer free and we're getting back into the swing of things, and my daughters are trying to figure out a new normal with their mom, pretty much, identified as this world champion pool player icon, and this movie and this book, but they just want to know that their mom is okay. And that's where most of my efforts are. And I share a lot of the different things that I've had to overcome. It's much more than just a pool story. It's really about scoliosis and raising 6 children, being a woman, an Asian woman in a decidedly male world, and all the different things that I've had to overcome and the lessons that I've had along the way. And I'm just thankful to triumph books for taking a chance and believing in me and my story.
Well, I mean, to have the perspective that you have now, and you just kind of touched on that, of feeling like you were right there with a grim outlook, and yet all these things that if you ever had another shot, the things you'd want to focus on and have your heart be set on, and now you get the opportunity to do that. It just seems like a new lease on life, and it's inspiring to hear. I'm curious when going through the process of writing, was that an enjoyable process for you because of all the difficult things that you had to kind of go back through, or did you enjoy it? What was that like?
That's a really good question. So at the time that we had gotten this deal, I was heavy into my chemo, and I was taking off my treatments for my ankylosing spondylitis and my fibromyalgia because they're two autoimmune diseases in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in a great state of mind. I was not just fighting chemo, but just my whole body and fatigue and just pain and things like that. And it was during a tough time, but getting to just drum up those old memories and the special people that, wanting to make sure I thank everyone, which is an impossible task because there's just too many people that have played a part. But I also wanted it to not just be me sharing my story, but that it be inspiring, that people can identify with some of the things that I've gone through, and maybe they won't feel so alone. That was really important to me because, when you're looking at the end of your life, you want to feel like you made a difference, and that all of the things that I'd been through, that God had a greater plan than what I could imagine at 12 years old when I got scoliosis. That was like, no one was going to convince me something good could come from me having to have my back, split open and my spine restructured, and the metal rods that they had to put in my back, and the huge plastic brace I had to wear in middle school, when kids are just at their meanest. It was hard to express, I think, all that I wanted to share. And so they were able to get me with Dana Benbow, who's a great writer and a very talented woman who was so caring and patient and understanding. And it was critical to her that it be my voice and that we were really sharing my story and the things I wanted to tell. And I couldn't have done it without her. It was very difficult. It was rewarding, and I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it. And fortunately, Booklist thought that it was important enough that they gave it a starred review, which is a great, book review company. So I was very happy about that too.
I want to go back in time with you and talk about the beginning of all this and when you first realized that you had a talent at billiards. From what I understand, you grew up kind of in Brooklyn, in the pool halls there. First of all, most important question to me, what's the most amount of money you took from some guy when he thought he's going to have an easy victory here? What's the most amount of money you hustled from someone?
People ask me if I've hustled, but I always think of hustle as tricking someone. And I never really had to trick anyone. Me being a woman was the hustle. It didn't matter. It didn't matter how much I ran out. They always underestimated me. And I was happy. I was happy to break balls in stilettos. That was like, it was fun during a time that, there weren't a lot of women playing pool. There certainly weren't a lot of Asian Americans competing on ESPN. And so it was something that stood out that, when I was younger, I felt like it was such a handicap to be an Asian, to be a female. And I feel like pool and ESPN2 just kind of gave me permission to be me, and not just the timid wannabe Jeanette that I grew up as, but to be the Black Widow, to be strong and to have her own black deadly look and feel about her. It gave me permission to be unashamed and to just go for it and to be aggressive and try to be beautiful and seeing, just bringing new eyes to the sport in a positive way was really important to me.
You're, of course, inextricably linked to the nickname, and some of the great nicknames in sports, they go a long way. And obviously your nickname, we couldn't imagine it any other way. But you mentioned kind of the persona at the pool tables versus maybe who Jeanette Lee is behind the scenes. Do you feel like they're the same person, the Black Widow and Jeanette Lee?
Absolutely. I think, you've got moms that are kind and gentle, but when it's time to tell the kids what's what, the mom's going to lay the law down. I think that there's different sides to your personality, but it's still you. And the way that I am off the table, I try to be caring, sharing, be generous, be kind. I try to do all those things, but I am horribly flawed. And with pool, just on the pool table, it was like all of that just disappeared. And I just got to lean on the hard work that got me there, to trust the dedication and the effort and the focus that I put towards being the best player I could be, and just be totally open and unashamed of that, to just be proud of being good at something that you worked hard for. Sure. I think that was just so much fun, and the Black Widow nickname helped with that.
The truth is now we do see female athletes that are in the limelight quite often, which is how it should be. Yeah. Caitlin Clark, probably the latest example of that. But when you broke into this in the late 80s, early 90s, it was unheard of for females in sports and athletics to have the kind of spotlight. What was it about the women's PBA that I can't recall ever? I don't know the name of one, male professional pool player. I don't, but I know you. I remember seeing you. I remember seeing Allison Fisher in her vest and bow tie, dominating people at the table.
Wow.
What was it about you guys that was it timing? It just was it something about the way you guys played that made you more, I think, popular in terms of entertainment than the male pool players?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to say anything negative about the male players. Today, there's so many more stars or star material than there used to be. I think the women, it was partially timing. ESPN2 needed broadcasting, and we brought something that was or is one of the most popular sports in America, more than golf and tennis combined, in terms of the number of people that play pool. It's accessible, it's affordable, it's everywhere from the Boys and Girls Club to ritzy mansions. And so it's something that people at some point have experienced. And here were these beautiful, well-dressed, articulate women that were great at what they do. And I think it was just something really unique to see on ESPN. Whereas the men of yesteryear were known as like Minnesota Fats and Willie Mosconi, who were a little bit older. Minnesota Fats had a little weight on him, not considered like the most attractive,
Not as good of a nickname as Black Widow, by the way. Black Widow, much better nickname.
Well, it worked out well for me, but I'm very thankful in the end that I'm an Asian American woman in the 90s.
Did you immediately like the nickname Black Widow? And who gave it to you?
There was a guy named Gabe Vigorito. Again, this is in my memoir by Triumph Books. Thank you, Triumph. You can go to triumph.com, triumphbooks.com, and order my book. And by the way, if you want an autograph copy, we have autograph copies available at caramsports.com. Oh, I'm sorry, blackwidowstrong.com. But going back to the pool rooms, it was him seeing me after about a year of me kind of rising the ranks there locally in local weekly tournaments and things like that. And he said, I remember when I first saw you walk in. I said, yeah. And he said, yeah, you were so sweet and friendly until you got a rack of balls and your entire demeanor changed. And you reminded me of a Black Widow because you lure your opponents to the table and eat them alive. And so it was a going joke in that one pool room, but just the fact that I continued to get better. And I think the fact that the Black Widow nickname matched my persona, because I do tell in my story that my mom actually went to her first tournament, and I thought it was because she was so proud of me, but actually it was that she was sitting up in the crowds in the stands going, you see, that's my daughter. I'm so proud of her. That's Jeanette Lee. And they go, oh, yeah. And she'd say, yeah, she changed her nickname, you know? And they said, oh, no, isn't it the Black Widow? And she'd say, oh, no, it's Lily of the Valley.
Oh.
So that was her mission, it turns out, that she wanted her nickname, her daughter. My mom, even in the movie, the 30 for 30, she's like, my daughter is not a Black Widow. She's a Lily of the Valley. And so it was really cute.
Yeah, your mom was awesome in that documentary, too. You could just feel the love. Yeah.
You could be two things at once, you know.
Yeah,
sometimes,
sure. Yeah.
sometimes a lily in the valley.
Yeah.
But when you get around the pool table, it's another. And people may not know this, but you're a Tampa resident and you've been living here for a while now. Where's the best place to play some pool in the Tampa Bay area?
Oh, we've got some great places. There's Brulin's in Carrollwood on Gun Highway and Plantation. They have 22 tables, excellent equipment. They keep it nice and clean, non-smoking. We also have Sticks Billiards in Oldsmar, and we have Mikey's Place in Plant City, and we have Belucas in Brandon. And so I own Tampa Bay APA pool leagues. That's why I moved here. So just like anyone joins a basketball league or a volleyball league or a dart league, I own a pool league. So if you want to come out one night a week and join my league, check out Tampa Bay APA, because that's why I'm here.
We need to work on it.
Could you give me like just one boss?
Tell us how to do a trick shot.
Or just give me like one thing to do where when I walk up to the table, my opponents are instantly intimidated. Is it how I put
stilettos?
Is it how I put my stick together, or is there a way I should chalk my cue?
That's what you'll need. There you go.
Nails.
For our listening audience, she is showing these wonderful fingernails there. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'll have to grow those out.
I'm not sure that will help you. But
sharpen your nails and sharpen your heels, and you'll be all right.
it is The Black Widow, a memoir. And tell us, Jeanette, where folks can get their hands on a copy.
Yes, so you can get your hands on a copy through triumphbooks.com, amazon.com, Barnes & Nobles, everywhere. But if you go to my website, blackwidowstrong.com, you can get Black Widow merch, autographed cue balls, and my newly released book, The Black Widow, a memoir with Triumph Books and co-written by Dana Benbow.
So great to have you on our show, Jeanette. Thank you so much. And such encouraging updates on your health and family life and all that. Everything's going in the right direction. Great to hear. Thanks for coming on.
Yes. Keep kicking cancer's butt. Yeah, you're doing great.
Get that pool table in your house.
That's right.
Coming.
You got it.
Rack them up.
You got it. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeanette.
What an inspiring story. I mean, you think about just her journey back against against the odds all along the way, right? Yeah. And yet proving the odds wrong each and every time. So I guess it's part of the DNA. You know what I mean?
For a Black Widow, she's a very bright light. I'll say that.
She's a lily of the valley. Yeah. That is one thing for sure. All right, on the other side, we're going to get into our 12-team playoff predictions.
Oh, get ready.
There's a reason I wore this duck shirt. Stick around. The Nod Pod continues. Welcome back to the Nod Pod. It is time to discuss college football. The 12-team playoff is here. This is something that I had long dreamed about, although it was a lot bigger. The playoff was like 30 teams.
Well, that's coming.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there soon enough. So today on the show, we want to, as the football season kicks off, we want to give you our 12-team playoff prediction. We each have one, and we'll take turns doing this, Chris, but I think we start by discussing the format a little bit, because it is 4 teams. The top 4 conference winners, according to the ranking, will get buys. So those are your 1 through 4 seeds, and then it's at large from there. Of course, 5 conference winners make it. But that fifth team is probably going to be that fifth conference winner is probably going to be a smaller conference. One of the group of fives. So
that's one of these spots is reserved for the highest ranked group of 5 team, and you would think that would be a conference champion.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it will be a conference champion. Right? I thought it was 5 conference champions.
You've got it.
Okay. All right. Either way, we're still figuring it all out. It's all new to us. Okay. So I'll start with our first 4 in. So these are the ones that get the bye. Your 4 power conference teams that win their conference. In with the number 1 seed, the team that starts the season in the number 1 spot, though they have a very difficult road ahead of them with a lot of talented teams and a brutal schedule. I got the Georgia Bulldogs finishing off the season with an unblemished slate. So again, during the regular season, I'm not taking into. I probably should have spent more time thinking about the conference championship. I have them as undefeated.
Wow.
And I think it's going to be difficult to do it. I just think that they bring back – they're just so loaded with talent. I think they probably have the best quarterback in the country. But there's some pitfalls potentially, obviously. I mean, they're at Bama, at Texas, at Ole Miss, right? So any of those could be losses. They have Clemson and Tennessee at home, but they have 5 top 25 teams right now in the preseason. But I just think they're head and shoulders better than everybody else. So I got them coming in at number 1. In at number 2, the winner of the Big Ten. Get a zoom in.
There it is.
Zoom in. Quack, quack, quack.
He's wearing his Oregon Ducks shirt.
I got Dylan Gabriel's Oregon Ducks. First season into the Big Ten, and I think they surprise Ohio State, who is probably the odds-on favorite to win it. They play that game during the regular season in Eugene, and I think Ohio State goes down. They bring back a ton of talent. Obviously, Bo Nix is no longer there, but one of the more experienced quarterbacks in all of college football, and Dylan Gabriel leading the charge. The receiving corps stacked. Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart was a transfer from A&M. They're heading in the right direction. They're recruiting great. I love what Dan Lanning's done there. In at number 3, I got the winner of the ACC, and I think it's going to be the team that got snubbed last year, Florida State Seminoles. I think they polish off a 1-loss season. During the regular season, I think ACC teams' schedule kind of sets up a little bit easier for the more dominant teams in the ACC. Clemson, Clemson's a tough read for me, and so I'm sure if you have thoughts, you'll add that in your time.
Who's your loss to for Florida State? Miami?
At Notre Dame.
Oh, it's at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
okay.
I have their loss at Notre Dame, but they still have a visit to Miami, Clemson. Those could be trip-up games. I don't think they have NC State on the schedule. No. So I got Florida State coming in at number 3, and then rounding out your top 4 teams to get the bye. It's your Big 12 champ, the Utah Utes. I also have them as just a 1-loss team, a very light schedule for a power conference standard. Oklahoma State could be a trip-up game in Stillwater. That's a potential. A lot of these teams, I have like Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Utah, and even Arizona kind of clumped in there. There's not a whole lot of separation. I'm going to lean on the fact that Utah has the experience at coach and at quarterback to get it done, and really their 2 biggest games are going to be at Oklahoma State and at home against Arizona. So that's my top 4.
Okay, I like some of it, and I was worried we were going to agree, but I should have known that we wouldn't. I do agree with you on number 1. I have the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't have them being undefeated. I just don't see how that happens. I've got them taking 2 losses during the season at Texas.
And still number 1.
Yes, this all works out. I have no undefeated teams in this slate here. This is going to be a magical season. A little bit of drama, a little bit of chaos.
Just like BK likes.
Losses at Texas and at Ole Miss. Sorry, BK, no loss at Alabama. Don't have that on the board. But they do get to play in the SEC championship against Ole Miss, and they beat Ole Miss. So that's your SEC champ. I've got Ohio State, not Oregon. I've got Ohio State in at number 2, your Big Ten champion. They lose on the road at Oregon in October. They lose at Penn State, too. They get a rematch against those Ducks in the Big Ten championship game. They get the revenge. They're your number 2 seed. 3, we've got... This is probably bad news for Florida State that we agree on this. I agree. It's hard for me to – I wanted to be – a couple weeks ago you were talking about Miami possibly being that school that finally rises up and takes the ACC, and I do see that's possible, but I just kind of feel like Florida State still runs the show. And in spite of losing, what you say, 83% of their production from last year?
Well, they rank 83rd in production.
Well, no one has worked the portal like Mike Norvell, and I think the defense is going to be just as good. So I think Florida State's going to lose a couple. I think they're going to lose to Miami on the road. Maybe somewhere else like an SMU could be tricky on the road. That's their first ACC game on the road in Dallas. But I think they win the ACC championship over well, I don't want to give away my next one, but that's my third slot. And then in the fourth slot there, also getting one of those buys, is the winner of the Big 12, Kansas State. Give me the Wildcats in there at 10-3. They lose at Tulane early in the season, kind of an upset. They lose at West Virginia. They lose to Iowa State on the road, tough place to play.
Really?
But they don't have to play Utah during the regular season. They do play Oklahoma State, and I think the Big 12 is going to be a war.
That would be awful. That really would be awful.
It's going to be a war of attrition. You're going to have Utah.
A 3-loss bye.
You're going to have Utah. Well, yeah, but a 10-win bye, if you look at it that way. I think that's what
Kansas State really doesn't play anybody. I mean,
well, they've got to play.
They play KU.
They've got to play. Yeah,
that's
they
their
don't
only
really, they don't really play.
that's
That's why I'm picking them, though. I mean, I think they've got an easier path to the Big 12 championship, and then you just need to beat Utah, and I think they can do that. So I've got Kansas State in there, Big 12 champs.
All right, we'll go a little faster because we want to fill out this top 12 before we run out of time on the show. So this is our 5 through 12. So these are all going to be your at-larges, and one will be, of course, your group of 5 team. All right, so in at number 5, I have Ohio State. I think they're the highest-ranked team, just edged by the Ducks. I think their schedule is tougher than Oregon's. They do have to visit Happy Valley. Iowa is, probably, their defense is good. They're probably going to walk over them. I don't think Michigan's going to be as good this year. In at number 6, I got Texas. I think they will have a couple of losses on their record. One of them could be at A&M. Number 7, Notre Dame. I think that they, I had them beating FSU, but they still have they have a visit to A&M as well, and they have a visit to USC. Not quite sure how good USC is going to be, so I think their schedule sets up pretty nice. I don't think it's going to be the hardest strength of schedule, so I could see like a 1-loss Notre Dame team just kind of sitting in there late top, kind of right around the 7th spot. I got Alabama coming in there. So we got our third SEC team in there. Is that right? And, of course, their schedule is difficult. All the change. The Kalen DeBoer era kicks off. And I think the Crimson Tide still keep that thing rolling.
So we won 10 games in your.
I got them at 10-2.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I'm sign me up.
Yeah,
as long as one of the.
I think my 2 losses. I think I had because I didn't bring my notepad with me. Georgia. And then at LSU.
Okay.
That's
fair. As long as it's not Auburn, we're fine with that.
And then number 9, I got Penn State. I think that, for a Big Ten team that has a pretty easy schedule, all they have is a visit to USC and Ohio State. Really, they could trip over themselves, but I think the road is kind of paved for them to sneak in. I got Texas A&M as one of those feisty teams. Here's why I like them is because
you got Texas A&M. Okay.
I have them in at number 10. All their big opponents are at home. They have to come into College Station, which is one of the most imposing environments. Yeah, you got it. In at number 11, I do have another ACC team getting in, and that would be the Miami Hurricanes. Their schedule is pretty easy as well. I do think they're going to lose to FSU, and like I predicted last week on the show, I think they're going to also lose at Louisville. But a 2-loss ACC team, I think we get 2 ACC teams in. And rounding out your top 12 as your Group of 5 winner, I think it's going to be Liberty. They should be able to win in their division, get by without a loss. So nobody's going to like that.
Right.
It'll probably be the same outcome as when they played Oregon last year in the bowl game. But so that's my top 12.
Well, you segued perfectly into mine because I've got in that 5 slot, since they didn't win the Big Ten championship, your Oregon Ducks in that 5 slot, and in the 12 slot I've got Liberty. So we're going to see that matchup again. Yeah. So let me fill in the rest for you. I do like. I think Oregon's going to go 10-3 again, losing the Big Ten title game. I think though once they're in the playoffs, they can make a great run. And here's what you have to like. I think this is a better prize than getting one of those buys. If you get one of these 5 through 9 games, 5 through 8 games, if you're 5 through, you get to host an on-campus playoff game. How cool is that going to be? All right, 6. I've got Ole Miss. They lost to Georgia in the SEC championship. 7, I've got Penn State. I agree with you. This is perfect. If this 12-team playoff had been in effect for the last 7 years, Penn State would have made the playoff 6 of the seasons.
Yeah, right.
They're always around 10 wins. I do think they lose to USC and Minnesota, of all teams. In 8, I've got another SEC team, and it is a light schedule that sets up perfect for a little guy named Eli Drinkwitz out in Columbia, Missouri. I mean, if you look at it, I think they will lose at Texas A&M and to Alabama, but that's it. Now, when it comes down to strength of schedule, that might knock them back a bit, but I've got Missouri at 8. And then let's go with another Tigers team. How dare you? How dare you think Clemson is dead and gone? No, Clemson is back in the playoffs, baby. It's Dabo versus the world. Their defense is going to be outstanding. I don't know what about the offense. Hopefully they'll have things better with Garrett Riley than they had last year and Cade Klubnik, but I think that defense is going to be one of the best in the country. So they lose in the ACC title game to FSU. In fact, they lose twice to FSU this season, but they do get in at the number 9 slot. 10, I've got Utah. Utah losing to K-State in that Big 12 title game. They're at 10-3. And then I've got, this is set up perfect for Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got to get put in the playoff. That's one of the reasons we expanded the playoff, so Notre Dame doesn't miss the slot. The schedule for the Irish is a bit lighter this year than it usually is. They do have to go on the road to Texas A&M game 1, which, BK was saying earlier, none of this will matter until late in the season. I think week 1, well, yes, not week 0, week 1, we've got a game that could have playoff implications right there. If Notre Dame wins that game at A&M, I think they're a lock-in, but I do think they lose it, and I think it comes down to them winning their last game of the season at USC, their rival, and I think they do. I think they get in at 10-2, and then as I mentioned, I've got Liberty in that 12th spot as the Conference USA champion.
Well, at least we bookended it.
We did bookend it.
Yeah. Correct. I don't see how you get 2 Big 12 teams in there with 3 losses each. I don't see how that happens with as challenging as
the win threshold.
The SEC is especially.
Well, it's the win threshold. It's 10. I don't look at losses. I look at how many wins do you have. If you have 10 wins, I think you're getting in.
Yeah, but you have a team that does. I get it if they win their championship game with 3 wins, but if they don't.
But if here's what I want to see, and this is one of the fun controversial things about this. Their third loss in Utah's this scenario, Utah's third loss would be coming in the championship game. So are you going to punish a team for making its championship game, making the conference championship game, and then losing? I don't think the committee would do that.
Yeah,
unless it's a blowout, unless it's a horrible blowout.
So you have 2 Big 12 teams. How many SEC teams do you have?
All right, let's see. Georgia, Ole Miss, Missouri, 3.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Okay.
I have 4 SEC teams getting in. Let's see how many Big 10. 1, 2, 3 Big 10, 2 ACC. We have Notre Dame, an additional one, and then I don't know. My math works out. Yeah, I don't.
You don't see there being no way that the SEC doesn't get 4 in. But look, what you just said, though, look at the schedule. If you got 3 losses,
there's going to be multiple
teams. If you don't have 10
teams.
wins, you're not getting in. And Alabama, I don't think is getting to 10 wins. Who else from the SEC is? I think I gave you the 3 that will. Okay, here's the big thing. Texas.
I have A&M getting there. All the teams that I.
But okay, so tell me how this works. How does Texas and A&M get in? They play each other the last game of the season. They're both. I believe they'll both be sitting there with 8 or 9 wins. With 9 wins, that's almost a play-in game. I don't think there's any way both of those can get in.
Okay, but you would rather. You think a 9-3 Utah team.
They're 10-3. I keep telling you, it's the number of wins. It's not your and especially I think if you lose, and this will be a great debate at the end of the season.
BK, come on in. I need you to weigh in on this point right here. I'm shocked that Cato only has 3 SEC teams.
I am too.
I was thinking he would go at least 5.
Stunned at that.
Yeah.
Missouri.
I didn't know that I was going to be the.
Here I am carrying the banner for the Big 12.
Yeah.
Come on, Big 12.
Yeah, right.
And Clemson. Let's
That's
get Clemson back in there.
Maybe he's trying to sponsor the Big 12. Maybe that's his whole thing.
Yeah, I'm Allstate.
The Chris Cato Big 12.
That'd be good.
All right. I know our big takeaway at the end of the season is going to be like, how can we keep Liberty out? How can they not take one of our spots? I'm just kidding.
Or
here's the best part is that we could talk about it till we're blue in the face, but we get to watch the games, and that's the best part.
Thank goodness.
And there's so many good ones this year. Anyway, all right. Thanks, boys. It was
Thanks,
fun.
guys.
Great show. Thanks to our guest, Jeanette Lee, the Black Widow. Thanks to our crew. We got Chris behind the 1s and 2s. We got Mariah on the jib. For Cato, BK, I'm Scott. Until the next time we're on, there are no off days.
Happy college football.